What about some of the lies, though, that are operational today in Christianity that actually obstruct us from knowing God, obstruct us from actually reaching people? This is one I see a lot. How when we close our hearts to love because we want to do what's right. We want to do it because we're afraid. We're afraid that we'll corrupt the church. We're afraid we're going to move from this love for the person to the fear of corrupting the institution, fear of bringing sin into the church. And we're now fear-based to protect the church. What do? How about this? When people give their heart to Jesus Christ, we won't baptize them until they first give up their Sabbath job, give up their smoking, give up their alcohol, reform their lives. And once they, through a power of will and effort on their own, have made themselves healthy and right, then we'll let them be baptized into Jesus Christ. Because why? We're afraid if we were baptized a smoker, well, we would bring sin into the church. We can't do that. Yes?
I've heard from some friends, and it seems to make sense scripturally, that when people want to fall in love with Jesus, you baptize them. Now, when they're willing to maybe work in the kids division, maybe clean out clogged commodes, they're willing to do the hard jobs of going visiting grumpy people in the hospital, then maybe they need to be a member that can deal with the inner frustrations and inner challenges of a church family. And how do we do evangelism? There's lots of ways to do it, but we can argue and get ugly how we do evangelism. So when they're willing to work with the nitty-gritty and disagree with the apostles and work that conflict through, then maybe they're ready to be a member.
No, I love what you're saying, George. George is actually dissecting out something here, and that is the difference between baptism into Jesus Christ and becoming a part of the body of believers, and joining an institution, an organization, institutional church, whether a denominational church. They are not actually the same thing. But many denominational churches, and I'm not pointing a finger at any specific denomination, but many denominational churches want people to believe that baptism into Jesus Christ equals joining the denomination. And so they hold them very, very closely together. But if you look closely, there is a subtle separation. If you've ever been to a baptism service in this denomination anyway, as soon as the baptism is over, within moments, the pastor will look to the church and say, do I have a motion to accept them into membership? Second, all in favor? Aye. See, there's a second step happening. You're not actually a member until the church votes to bring you in. It's a separate whole process. But they bring them so closely together that they won't actually baptize somebody because they expect them to immediately become members of the church. I think decoupling those, bring them to Jesus Christ, baptize them into Jesus Christ. I mean, where do you get power for victory in your life? And what happens is we crush the joy. Remember when you first accepted Jesus? It's supposed to be a wonderfully joyful, what we might call a spiritual mountaintop experience. Lead me in the green pastures by the still waters. Okay, that's the first experience with Jesus Christ is supposed to be this way. And that's when you're baptized and you have this wonderful nurturing in the Spirit from Jesus, which prepares you. And because of that, from love, you want to give these things up. But what happens when we tell them, yes, you love Jesus, but you still can't be part of his church until you do all these things? Then we move from unconditional love, I love you as you are, and yeah, there's things in your life, we'll clean those up together, no worries, because that's not a barrier to me accepting you. Oh, you're a prostitute caught in adultery, so what? I still love you. Go and live a better life. I don't condemn you, but what we do instead is we lay out this list of things you've got to do, and now it's suddenly, it's conditional. I'm not actually loved for who I am. I've got to clean myself up. I've got to do all these things before I'm good enough to be loved. And now we create these legalists, these people who never smile in church, and the children run in church and smile. They should be spanked because this is holy ground. It's sacred. Be reverent. Fear-based versus love-based.